Live. Yep, and so I said, whatever you do, don't eat that cheese. Oh my goodness, hello!
Oh,
It's
How
us.
about that? It is us, and it's a good thing you didn't eat that cheese because, listen, floor cheese is not something to mess with. There's a statute of limitations on, stuff that falls in the ground, and you got to be careful what it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't want hairy buttered toast. Or floor cheese.
That rule doesn't apply to sticky substances, though. You say like, oh, the 10-second rule. That's like, a cookie falls on the floor or something.
Exactly,
But you're talking about,
right?
Yeah,
right.
I haven't Swiffered recently.
Exactly.
I'm just being honest.
No, yeah.
Yeah, that's going in the trash.
It'll put hair on your chest and in your stomach.
Oh, man. On that note, wow. Well, welcome, everybody. It is another live-streamed version of our podcast. We had a lot of fun doing this last week, and the idea here is, just like last week, we're bringing in our listeners into the conversation. So as we record this podcast, you will be able to share your comments in the live chat, and then we will be able to incorporate them into the podcast and actually give you a shout out and even have your name pop up there on the screen as we go. We've got a lot to cover with just the one big story this week. And of course, that's going to be the Activision Blizzard acquisition. We have been furiously chatting all day about this, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah. That's been, I think, what everyone has talked about, really.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's any other news to talk about, at least according to every news source out there, right?
Yeah. No, it's...
I think there's 68.7 billion reasons why this is going to take up our entire episode.
Whoa!
Hey, there we go. We're off to the races, just like that. Amazing.
There we go.
Oh boy! Alrighty,
I had to
gents.
share this via Facebook because we are live on Facebook, right?
Correct. We are live on Facebook. We are on YouTube, and you won't be able to chat on Twitter, but we actually are live streaming this on Twitter through Periscope. Periscope is still a thing. I
really
haven't heard of that in a while. I thought that was dead for sure. Hey, who knew?
Well, we're available wherever we can be, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
All the socials. Come find us live.
That's right. All right, gents. Well, we should be good to go here. You guys have the opening script. And then we're going to light this candle.
Let's do it.
All right.
Let's do it.
All right. Check 1, 2. Good to go. And high energy, high energy, high energy. That's how I get myself pumped up on the Quit the Build podcast. Mic check 1, 2, 3. Today on Quit the Build, Microsoft buys everything and the internet has opinions.
Hey, Brad, game pass me the salt.
There was probably other news today, though.
IGN doesn't seem to think so. Start that jingle. He's going to start that jingle. He's going to do it. He's going to do it.
Ready to quit the build. The QTB crew is rounding up all the gaming news and hot topics of the week with a little extra something. And here are your hosts, Bruno, Brad, and Nick.
Oh, man. One of these days I'm going to stick the landing.
Oh! What it do? You are listening to the QTB podcast. I'm your host, Bruno, and with me are the boys of QTB, our co-hosts, Nick and Brad.
Oh, man. It is episode 86, which is my favorite number, by the way. There's a whole story behind that. But more importantly is we have got just a humdinger of a day. Probably one of the only times so far in the history of the show where we've only got one story to cover, because we know darn well, based on the endless conversation we've been having today and the internet has been having today, that this big story of the Activision Blizzard acquisition by Microsoft is, boy, there's just so many things that we need to unpack, right, Brad?
Woo! Yeah, and you know what? We'll be able to unpack more once they get loaded to that Game Pass, baby. That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, man. That's what I'm talking about as well.
Oh, that's
and
not
of
going to come
course,
soon enough.
yeah. And if you didn't hear last episode, of course, we are now live streaming our podcast on YouTube, Facebook, and we're even there on Twitter. If you're on YouTube or Facebook at youtube.com/quitthebuild or facebook.com/quitthebuild, you are going to be able to join the live conversation and be a part of the podcast and have your comments kind of inserted in. It's a really cool way that we're interacting with our viewers. We got Mr. Grove Games over here saying, now we're cooking.
Yeah,
That's right.
What I'm talking about. Thank you.
What's going on,
Oh,
Mr.
yeah.
Grove
Mr. Grove
Games?
Games coming in here. What it do? Cooking with gas, as they say, and not the bad kind of gas. The good kind. I've been waiting to use that one. It's got echoes in it and everything. But the big story today is what everyone's talking about. As Brad said in the pre-show, 68.7 billion
with a
reasons
B.
to check out this episode.
Oh, yeah.
And wow, that is some news to wake up to. Am I right? Like
We
I woke up to a plethora of texts this morning from these
Brad.
two guys, and they're just like, I can't wait to see what his response
What's he
is.
gonna
Oh
say?
my
What's he
God!
gonna say? What's he gonna say? Oh man, that was so funny.
I
Well,
mean,
before we, go ahead.
When you pray to the podcast gods, when you want to have a good topic for an episode on the day of recording, and this thing breaks this morning, I mean, I was giddy. I couldn't stand not waiting and sending you guys all of the articles I could find, all bits of information. I was so ready.
We've had slow news weeks before, and this will not be one of them. It's a one and done for sure. Before we jump into it, today's big story is brought to you by Expressvpn. Guys, you know, the internet is the cornerstone these days of our media consumption, from digital gaming to podcast live streams, for example. And nowadays, it's easier than ever for your data to be tracked or even hacked. Expressvpn is the all-in-one package for your desktop, smartphone, and even modem that will level up your privacy and ensure that what you see and do online is anonymous in a world that wants nothing more than to get in your business. Visit tryexpressvpn.com/QTB. Learn how you can get 3 months free. What a deal. Find
that's
out.
pretty
Get you
nice.
some information. That's right. Again, you can go to tryexpressvpn.com/QTB. The link is in the show notes, guys. Without further ado, boy, we have got all manner of things that we really need to break down in this story. And of course, I think the best way for us to start things off is going to be just with the actual press release that we received from Microsoft, stating that they have acquired Activision Blizzard to bring the joy and community of gaming to everyone across every device. And of course, here is another one of their snappy pictures there. You know,
Hey.
we talk about Activision Blizzard all the time, but don't forget about King there at the end, the mobile game provider of, I don't know, a little something called Candy Crush Saga. Remember that
Right?
game?
Yeah,
Wow.
this is definitely a flex, right? We've got a picture here of Overwatch, Diablo, Call of Duty, World of Warcraft, Candy Crush, and StarCraft, just to let you know that these are the IPs that Xbox now owns in this Activision Blizzard takeover, and that's just going to be added to the Bethesda library, right?
Well, I was going to say, you want to talk about a flex, Bruno? This was an all-cash purchase at a premium. Microsoft just said, no,
Wow.
we got it in our bank. We're going to pull it out. We'll write you a check. $68.7 billion valued at $95 a share.
Yep.
How
Which is incredible.
Do you think they came in with briefcases? Like steel briefcases?
That's a lot of $100,000 briefcases, my man.
Handcuffed, handcuffs attached to the briefcases.
Right?
Yeah, it's interesting that
Yeah.
you mentioned that, Brad, because they did pay a premium. So before market opening, the price of Activision Blizzard was sitting somewhere around like the mid 60s. Even after the news of this broke, Activision Blizzard surged 30% in just about one day and closed out today at, as of this recording, at $82. Okay, so even with that 30% jump, they're still paying way more. They're paying $95 per share. That's how confident they are of the value of this. So you're right, they absolutely did pay a premium. And I mean, this story, and like we said, this really is going to be what we're talking about today, because there's so many ways that you can dissect this about not only, the actual, the facts, what is actually happening here, but also the implications, and even, what does the response need to be? What's the rebuttal need to be for not even just Sony, but even Nintendo and just the gaming space as a whole, as Xbox and Microsoft continue to consolidate, this incredibly powerful generation that they've been having, console generation, unlike anything that we've really ever seen before. So the actual story, of course, the news broke this morning that, they are purchasing outright, like you said, Brad, right, in an all-cash transaction. That is unbelievable. They've got $68.7 billion laying around. It's like Die Hard, the bonds, in the vault. Just walk them over.
Yep.
Yeah. But of course, major iconic franchises now are, once this deal closes, will be in Microsoft's control, like Warcraft, Diablo, Overwatch, Call of Duty, and of course, even those mobile games on the King side, in addition to global esports activities through Major League Gaming, the MLG, of course, one of the big streamers and providers of Call of Duty competitive content. So, I mean, without further ado, let's just jump right into it, Bruno. I know that you are a big proponent of Game Pass, probably the most outspoken ambassador and just kind of the Xbox guy. What were your initial reactions, your hot takes when you first read this article?
I'm ready. I am ready for this. First of all, the first thing I thought about, honestly, was a few weeks ago, there was an article that came out that said something about that Xbox was very aware of their business dealings with Activision CEO, Bobby Kotick, and everything that was going on with Activision. And that kind of scared me back then, because I was thinking to myself, well, maybe they really are going to put a kibosh on this deal, this relationship with Activision, and say, moving forward, we're not going to host any more of your games because of what's going on in your company. And in reality, they decided to buy the company. So it was like, hey, we know more than you do. Don't worry about it, because we'll take care of it. And that's exactly what happened. So for me, looking at this from a Game Pass perspective, somebody who's always been on the Xbox train, not saying I don't love PlayStation, but if you are PlayStation, you gotta be having a little bit of
emotional damage,
because this is going to hurt moving forward. PlayStation is just trying to keep up with the Game Pass, right? And now you've got to throw in this acquisition, and PlayStation owners are still getting over the Bethesda acquisition. They're still angry about that. Am I ever going to get to play Fallout again? What about the next iteration of this game? And so for this to happen is just a huge karma coming back to PlayStation, especially retribution for 2015, when Sony decided to snatch up Call of Duty esports and pull that from its native Xbox platform and force pro players to switch over to PlayStation just because they acquired the esports right to this. This is retribution to the full extent, and I'm here for it. I'm ready, and
wow. On that note,
excited.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta say, if I'm just talking first impressions, I know we're gonna get into the details. We're gonna go into implications, what this means for Microsoft, what this means for Sony. But when I first saw that this morning, when I think of first impressions, you think of things, moments in history or events that change the landscape of something for the next 10, 15, 50 years, right? Potentially. This feels seismic in terms of how it's going to impact the gaming industry. Like, you just look at the deals that happened in the second half of 2021 and even the Bethesda deal recently. This one just said, Microsoft said, hold my beer. I'm going to go out and just blow these out of the water.
The freaking second week of January, okay? Take it down a notch. We're not ready for it. It was a Tuesday.
It's not even the new fiscal year yet for them. Like, it's absolutely absurd.
So just thinking about that though, and you look at the graphic we showed earlier on that first Microsoft article, and you see the way they presented it with Xbox, with Activision Blizzard King, and these iconic titles of games that have such a following. That to me, that's a first impression image, a first impression visual of what's to come of this deal, of this acquisition. And that, I mean, simple, effective, impactful. You go, wow, those titles are now under the Xbox umbrella. Like that alone, just you're like, let alone thinking about the future potential of what can be created. But this alone right here, you're like, man, all of this is now going to be accessible in the Game Pass. Like, it's a proponent of so I'll give Bruno credit here. He was a first supporter of the Game Pass, the concept, what it meant, what it could be, and these acquisitions are now a quick way of expanding that and the player base significantly, because all of these people who are playing these games now will want to get the Game Pass to not only continue to experience these, but the library that Xbox already offers there. So first impressions, seismic event in the gaming industry that's going to have implications as we go through 2022. What do you think, Nick?
Yeah, absolutely. And to double down really on what you were saying earlier about, Microsoft saying, hold my beer. I mean, you really aren't kidding, because, or hold the beer inside my Xbox Series X mini fridge, I guess, would be more appropriate for you guys. Because, again, I want to take this back. So we looked at this Wikipedia article last week, and it's already been updated, and it had already been updated the last week because it was breaking news when we had reported it last week that, of course, Take-Two Interactive had purchased mobile games company Zynga, which at the time was the largest video game deal, ever penned at $12.7 billion. And that was already about 50% over the previous record of the Tencent acquisition of Supercell. But then they just come out of the gate with $68.7 billion. I mean, look, this is a list of all of the deals that have ever been come to at least finalization, when this is pending, of course, but that are in excess of $1 billion. Okay. And you look at this list, we looked at it last week. It's a lot of big name developers purchasing mobile studios, right? Tencent buying out Supercell, or Electronic Arts buying out Glue Mobile, right? The list goes on. Activision buying King right there, 2015. And now Microsoft buys Activision Blizzard and just completely trumps them. And I mean, this is, the numbers speak for themselves, right? Right now we're talking about the facts and what this means. And not only is this going to mean, that they are getting their slice of the pie for existing franchises, but we already know, and it was made very clear by Phil Spencer in the initial press release, that once this deal is finalized, they will be able to provide as many games as possible that are a part of Activision Blizzard on Game Pass. That doesn't mean they're going to magically have, World of Warcraft or any of those, or StarCraft or anything like that overnight. It does open up that, and when we get into the implications, we can talk more about that. But of course, you're going to have a lot of the existing library, right? Like, we're not just talking Call of Duty. We're talking a lot of the IPs that they've acquired over the years, like Spyro the Dragon, Crash Bandicoot, which, by the way, you talk about big name Sony exclusives back in the day.
Wow.
The original PlayStation was marketed off the back of Lara Croft and Crash Bandicoot.
Yep, I remember the commercials vividly. There was literally a guy dressed up in a Crash Bandicoot suit that stood outside of the Nintendo offices and was screaming at them through a bullhorn, to say, like, what's your move? Like, Nintendo, like, we're bold and brash. And so to see something like this from essentially the proprietors of Crash and Spyro, the things that made you want that console, right? Back in the day, Mario sold consoles for Nintendo, still does to this day. And back when PlayStation first released, how they got kids on the PlayStation train, because it was very much a more of an adult console. There were a lot of adult games, especially compared to Nintendo 64, but you throw PlayStation in the mix, right? And the only thing they really had to entice kids was Spyro and Crash Bandicoot. Fast forward to today, and it's in the hands of Xbox. Not something I ever thought I would see, really, honestly.
Well, and just focusing on first impressions here, and just strictly for Microsoft and Xbox. It's been perceived and can be argued that Xbox and Microsoft have been trailing in the console war now, generation to generation. I think this tips the scale the other way. Like, I honestly do. This is a power move by Microsoft, strengthening the Xbox brand, the Game Pass, and it really puts them in a really, really strong position as they've just launched their next generation consoles and what that could bring going forward. So again, I know we'll talk about Sony a little bit later, but this is a tremendous seismic power move by Microsoft. And you could tell by what was on the internet today, the live reactions, the quick takes, people, there was a giddiness, there was memes, there was giddiness, there was excitement. I mean, when was the last time you felt this buzz about something? Like, seriously.
Yeah, you're not kidding, man. I mean, especially when you are someone that is in the Xbox ecosystem, you have to get excited about it. We've talked so many times about just the unbelievable value proposition that Game Pass is bringing, which, by the way, as a part of this press release, they also announced that they have passed the 25 million subscriber mark for Game Pass. Wow. So just right there, multiply that by 15, and you're talking big bucks, right? Over $300 million every month that they're bringing in revenue, and that's not counting, game purchases. That's not counting any kind of DLC or Battle Pass add-ons that a lot of these game, publishers are adding on to the things that they put onto Game Pass, which is a very strategic move. I mean, there's so many different ways that you can dissect this, and I want to reiterate just to kind of recap, because Microsoft has done so much in the last 5 years. This article here from, well, if I can get rid of this pop-up, this article from PCGamer.com showing every game and studio Microsoft now owns, of course, updated pending the acquisition of Activision Blizzard. Of course, they own ZeniMax Media, right, which gives them the rights to so many games from Fallout to the upcoming Starfield game that we know is now going to be a console exclusive. Which, by the way, if I were a PlayStation fan right now that is a fan of Call of Duty or is a fan of any of those IPs that you would think that cross-platform is the way to go, I think that Starfield being signaled to be it's Bethesda's first new IP in a very, very long time, like double-digit years. For that to we already know that's going to be an Xbox exclusive. The best take I read on that on Twitter is, nobody is spending $68 billion to produce games for other consoles. So I think there's going to be some major, major heartbreaking news on the Sony side of things if you're somebody that is reliant on that ecosystem and haven't made the jump to Xbox. Again, that's speculation, and we'll talk more about that later, but let's just look at the facts, right? So Activision Blizzard, we already know. So yeah, Call of Duty, Diablo, Hearthstone, Overwatch, StarCraft, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, right? And even the kind of dormant franchises like Guitar Heroes.
You own X Games mode, bro.
That's right. Of course, Rare, right? They acquired Rare, which brought a lot of those franchises over, like Banjo-Kazooie, Sea of Thieves, and Battletoad, 343 Industries. Of course, Halo, we know that. Gears of War from the Coalition, Mojang, of course, right? Minecraft is that speaks for itself. Ninja Theory, Playground Games, Undead Games. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Discord, they didn't get. That's one of the ones in red. they rejected the bid.
I tried to buy. Sorry.
Yeah. That's right.
That's okay. But see, that's you know what I mean? That's $12 billion that was better spent towards Activision, because Discord was just going to be something that was added along to the ecosystem, right? Like, it was just another thing to include in the Xbox game sphere. I don't think it is game breaking as something like a deal of this magnitude, because like we're going to talk about regarding PlayStation owners, the two options you have now are either get an Xbox or get a PC. Yeah, those are your choices. Like, Xbox has been dedicated to trying to bring all of these games to PC. It's likely that they'll continue that idea, but for the most part, you got to realize that if you don't have either a PC or an Xbox, it's gonna be a bad time in the future for you if you're a fan of one of these IPs.
Well, like we said, a big part of this new live streaming thing that we're doing is we get to incorporate those viewer comments. Got a lot of people chiming in. First of all, we got Terry saying hi. Hi, Terry.
What's going on, Terry?
What's going on, Terry?
Terry!
Yeah. And Mr. Grove Games is saying the great game company consolidation is underway. What's next? And I think that's a really important take, and we're going to be talking about the implications on what it means for the gaming industry kind of as we go through this in our next part of this coverage. But I mean, it is so interesting because this is a new era of games that Microsoft really is kind of forcing into existence, right? They are the dominant force with these acquisitions. Really, on the Sony side, all that we've seen is the studios that were already producing exclusives for them eventually got bought by them, surprising no one, right? This is breaking news. Nobody saw this coming. I remember when the rumors were going around that the next company they bought was going to be Ubisoft, and hey, maybe they did put an offer out there and we just don't know about it. But I mean, the internet was very skeptical, myself included, was very skeptical of that, thinking, man, could they really pull something like that off? ZeniMax is valued right now at about $7.8 billion. And then you look at things like, we got Ubisoft at $7 billion. So about even in terms of the market value of that company if they were to buy it for, what that estimated stock value would put it at. But it is very interesting because it seems like even though, Mr. Grove Games, to your point or your question, even though it seems like we're in the great game company consolidation, it seems like Microsoft is the only one willing to actually do it. No one else wants to follow in their footsteps, or at least can't mobilize quickly enough.
It's not gonna. I don't think it's gonna happen. If you want my opinion on the matter, we had talked about this today earlier through our chat, and we basically slated that PlayStation's essentially MO is not centered around this idea. It's centered around their own exclusive titles and games. So they're not looking to acquire any of these big companies. And the only thing they have left, the only thing that's really out there, in my opinion, that's worth putting out money for is something like Grand Theft Auto. We got a comment from Russell Hansen. He said, what do you guys think PlayStation could do to even try to compete with this? I think that's it. It's Grand Theft Auto. And I got news for you. I don't think they're going to sell to be an exclusive game because they're raking in too much money as it is with Grand Theft Auto Online. With the amount of money that they've brought in, what was it, $6 billion last year, Nick? Something like that?
The news that I had read, that the interesting way to kind of break it down was that GTA 5 is generating $2.5 million every day just in DLC and new shark card purchases and in-game microtransactions and new sales of the game by itself. And that's before they released the major update there with Dr. Dre. So, I mean, it's just, like how on earth can you take something like Take-Two and say, your biggest cash cow, we're going to throw so much money at you that you are going to just take less profits because we don't like Xbox.
No. Not going to happen.
We'll crunch the numbers because when we get to the kind of the Sony portion of this episode, there are some very sobering statistics there with just the stock values and the way they've been shifting around so violently just in the last 24 hours. But I mean, as far as you were concerned, Brad, I mean, I want to get your take as well. When you first saw the news, right? Like, what was your immediate thought? What went through your mind?
Besides texting you guys or getting out in the network and the community, it's been a long time. I feel like it makes me want to explore the Game Pass because I have limited time. But now with all of this coming, it really now it expands my ability to game and not be reliant on one or two games as my core games that I play consistently. I feel like I can now rotate each night or how frequently I play onto something new. Like, it's going to be fresh content every day of premier titles, not just like substantial titles that I can go back and forth between, and I'm only paying $15 a month and I get to have access to all of these.
Yeah.
Like, that concept and that like it's mind blowing. Like I just again, like I said, I haven't been this excited about this breaking news in the gaming industry in quite a while, right? I feel like it's kind of repetitive. The new consoles are going to come out in a couple years. There's some new games, a couple new IPs. Nothing seismic. This is big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I completely agree. I think that, when looking at something like this and seeing the magnitude of a deal like this, it there's little little that you can do to really steal the spotlight in a situation like this. And I saw a message today, or like a marketing thing today from PlayStation. It was like a sponsored ad, and it was like editor's choice of the games that they have on, editor's choice for these games that you should play on PlayStation. And the only notable game on there was like Guardians of the Galaxy.
No, that's cross-platform.
Yeah,
that's even on Switch.
Exactly. So you know what I mean? Like it's kind of like, what's going on with the gaming sphere. I know a lot of people are hesitant about something like this because they don't understand, economics, and they don't understand, like we're going to be talking about, the implications, all of the implications of this. But it's said and done. So
and to say this, I mean, this shows you that Microsoft is serious, right? I mean, we talked about potential deals in the past that did or did not happen, and you look at this, the size of the deal, the value, all cash offer. That means they're serious and they're strategic, right? And we're going to get into that. Like, this is not just there's the face shock value of it, right? But then you really, as we get into here, there's strategic reasons for this purchase beyond the titles that we saw on that first picture. So this tells me, first impression, Microsoft is serious about their Xbox Game Pass and the future of what gaming looks like for the gaming world. So,
well, Brad, I'll tell you what else is serious. It's serious how much we love our Patreon supporters.
Oh, there it
Oh,
is.
my goodness.
Oh, they said it couldn't be done.
That was easy. That was softball. Slow pitch. Oh, man. I've had to bail you out of some weirder segues, that's for sure. Oh, man. Well, yeah, speaking of which, our Patreon supporters, thank you as always to Nick, Epic Capture Productions, The Dudest Monk, Indie Gamiacs, Alan Abadessa, and Mr. Grove Games. Hey, you out there on the interwebs. If you would like to directly support our network and all of the amazing content that we produce in-house, that is the best way to do it at patreon.com/quitthebuild. Tiers start as low as $2 per month, but for that $5 per month price, you are going to get a shout out on each and every new episode of Quit the Build and Gotta Watch. So for our Nostalgia Vault, we're doing 2 episodes this month. We just published our episode on PBS kids shows, from the Magic School Bus to Brad's personal favorite, Bill Nye the Science Guy. You're going to want to stick around for that episode, so be sure to subscribe today. Yeah! The kids love it. Brad loves it.
Oh,
Bill,
I love
Bill,
it.
Bill.
Bill Nye the Science Guy.
Oh, man, science rules. That's right.
You couldn't get that on the soundboard, Bruno? Come on.
Bill.
He doesn't need it. He doesn't need it. Oh, man, he can just make it on the spot. You should have heard him earlier doing the Nickelodeon Guts thing. Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it.
Do you have it, ducks?
Oh, man.
Do you have it?
Oh,
sorry,
look at that.
That was
Mr.
ducks.
Mr.
Not
Grove
ducks.
Games throwing the shout out to
Soundboard's
Bruno.
in overdrive. What a do. That's right, man. Oh, man.
But
it's
Nick,
great.
you're right. Talking about implications, and I started to make that comment here right before we thanked our lovely Patreon members. This deal for Microsoft really, I think plays a key role in the development of what's to come across the platforms, right? I mean, not only is this for Xbox Game Pass, but for mobile and even the future of the metaverse, right? This has serious implications across the board. So I'm curious to get your and Bruno's take. Like, where do you think this has the most potential, the most implications going forward?
So I think the best way for us to kind of break it down is to really go into this fantastic article that I found from. You're not the article. Hold on. Let's actually bring it up here.
Oh,
no,
I am the
that's-
article.
yeah.
I am the declaration. You know what I mean?
Oh, live technical difficulties. We'll edit and post. but not on the live stream. But yeah, this article from over at Polygon.com, it talked about the 5 issues that Microsoft faces in its acquisition of Activision Blizzard. There's a lot of kind of aspects of this that are very much an interesting thing, because remember, it was not too long ago, right? Just a month or so, that we were really knee deep, and we still are to this day, with all of the scandals that have been following Activision Blizzard, and specifically Bobby Kotick and all the leadership there. That a lot of it has been cycled out, but Bobby's still there, with all of those workplace harassment lawsuits that have been popping up, of just a very toxic culture within the workplace there. And you're right, Bruno. It is so funny in a way, because they were saying so much. I remember Phil Spencer saying himself that we're closely monitoring the situation. Yeah, very closely, because they are buying them.
Yeah, right.
Oh, you gotta wonder if that actually devalued it a bit. Like, I'm thinking about it now, right? Like, maybe this deal was very much in the works, and we could have been closer to 100 billion. And then all of a sudden now, even though it's still a premium based off the current stock price this morning, I wonder if that impacted the negotiations a little bit. You got to wonder.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I think that the premium price they paid for it is definitely an interesting thing about the bargaining table, and that Microsoft is willing to just swing for the fences to make something like this happen, because they understand the long-term implications. But so yeah, this article kind of breaking down some of the big ones, and I mean, Bobby Kotick we'll get to, but I want to get this one out of the way now, because I know, Bruno, you especially kind of have some insights into this, which is on the antitrust side, right? Because a lot of people are already saying, oh, well, it's going to get shut down in the courts, because lawyers are going to come and basically try and say that this merger is too large and try to prevent it from happening. What's your take on that?
It's not going to happen. There's no way. I mean, if you look at the ecosystem of brands in general, and you realize that there's just a handful of brands that own everything, like PepsiCo, all the big name, Johnson & Johnson, all these big companies that own these smaller companies, you realize that there's no way they're going to be hit with an antitrust law here. And to further drive that home, there are 2 other systems that have their own IPs that will never, ever essentially go into the hands of Xbox without something crazy happening. Like, there's never going to be, a Mario on an Xbox unless some modder out there gets his hands on one, right? Like, the idea is that Nintendo has such a strong catalog of IPs and games that they're willing to, showcase, that they're not going to look at this and say, yeah, they're a monopoly. They own everything. Like, no. And any lawyer could see the fact that they're not limiting you in return of just purchasing an Xbox. You can buy a PC as well. So I would argue that PlayStation owners can fall, like I said, they can fall into 2 categories. They can fall into the category of saying, I concede, I'm a console owner for life, and I'm just going to switch over to Xbox, right? That might be one thing that they do. A more realistic thing is probably going to be, I'm going to remain a PlayStation loyalist and then get a PC. You know what I mean? I'm going to switch to PC gaming, which doesn't hurt Microsoft either way, because you're playing that on a Windows device. You know what I mean? Through the Xbox Game Pass sphere of games they own. So who the hell cares, if they choose to stick it to Xbox, because they're not ultimately sticking it to Xbox. Xbox will get their payday. Microsoft will get their payday through these acquisitions and through the ecosystem that they've set up with, the PC and Xbox hybrid. I mean, wouldn't you agree, Brad?
Yeah, this is just Microsoft Disneying the gaming industry, right?
Exactly.
I mean, if Disney can acquire Fox, there's no reason why Microsoft or Xbox can't acquire Activision Blizzard. There's no reason why they can't. And to your point about the whole, benefiting Microsoft either on the console or the PC side, I think that plays into exactly what, I look at a quote from Phil Spencer, the CEO of Microsoft Gaming. He said, "Together, we will build a future where people can play the games they want virtually anywhere they want." So that tells you it could be console, it could be PC, it could be metaverse. It could be AR, VR. I think the possibilities are endless, and I think. I agree with you. I don't think there's anything from a trade commission standpoint that's really going to hold this deal from going through. I think yes, the sticker shock value of the price is crazy when you look at, as we compared earlier, all the other deals chronologically in the gaming industry thus far. But there's nothing that would say if Disney can acquire Fox, this will go through no problem.
Yeah, the numbers don't lie. That showing that acquisition of Disney purchasing Fox was a $71.3 billion deal. Had no problem getting through. So yeah, I mean, literally in terms of the monetary value of the deal,
that
this
in
was
cash
larger.
as well?
I don't think that. I don't know, man.
That's a
I'm
flex
telling
as
you, it's
well.
gangster,
That's a
gangster.
flex.
All
Yeah.
cash deal, and they're making that obvious.
That was all in Mickey Mouse, stuffed animals.
That's right.
It's in Disney
bucks.
dollars, Disney
Yeah.
bucks.
Yeah, redeemable at any one of their 6 parks.
Yeah, that'll get you a bag of popcorn and maybe some Mickey Mouse ears if
I
you're
want
lucky.
some churros.
Oh, the churros are where it's at, man. You're not kidding. They're getting rid of the fast pass. That's what I hear. They're trying to change
man.
out like how they do it. Like it's not working anymore. But
But
yeah.
this isn't about Disney.
No, it's not, of course. Yeah, we're talking about the five big reasons here from this article that they face in this acquisition. And I want to kind of keep going down this list because I think it's a great way to kind of talk about what the implications are. Because I think despite this crazy amount of money that they're flinging around, there's some work that needs to be done on Microsoft and Phil Spencer's end to kind of rebuild confidence in Activision Blizzard, right? So number 2 on this list of things that they're kind of inheriting is a toxic workplace, right? That you have allegations of allegedly criminal behavior. Don't forget, we have that lawsuit that's been brought forth by the state of California. We've had the walkouts from employees. We've had esports sponsors withdrawing their support. Several resignations, of course, just there on the Game Awards, right? We had the very, very specific, but not specific, kind of monologue that Jeff Keighley gave about equality in both the gaming workplace and in the gaming space as well, right? And promoting, inclusivity when you're both playing games and creating games and just the culture all around it. So I think this is going to be a big challenge because, Activision Blizzard threw some money at it and settled a lot of those complaints. But I think that those scars are really going to remain. I mean, it was just, like I said, a month or so ago that really all of the gaming media space, us included, really came out and said, enough is enough. There needs to be changes made at the top. And as far as we know right now, as far as Bobby Kotick is concerned, we know he's currently the CEO of Activision Blizzard. But what remains unknown is what's actually going to happen when this deal goes through and we get into the fiscal year of 2023. So I guess my question is, and the topic that I think we need to address is, and I'll start with you, Brad, do you think that Bobby is going to be able to coexist in this new space, especially with a Microsoft that, in my personal opinion, puts a heck of a lot more value on zero tolerance for these types of toxic workplace practices?
Well, I'll preface this with that I do work in a corporate environment, and I will tell you this: he's gone. That had to be part of the negotiation. That had to be a part of the deal. That at the point of when this is fully turned over, Microsoft will absorb a lot of those assets and resources and people, but he will not be one of them. As you said, the corporate environment, an inclusive culture that appreciates diversity and fosters inclusion starts from the top. And I think the quickest way that you can set a new expectation with the people who are coming into your company is by identifying and removing the source of what could have driven a lot of that culture, that negative culture. So for me, I think that needs to be a critical move. If Bobby stays on, you wonder what I feel like that's just going to create a lot of apprehension for folks. It's like, well, we got bought out, but we're not really changing. Right? It's we're getting an external facelift, but internally we're still the same thing. And I think that won't bode well for the longevity of the people who are coming in from Activision and Blizzard into Microsoft and wanting to play their role and play a part in building the future. Right? This is a cohesive. It's an acquisition, but it's a merging of talent to build and foster something new for the future. And I think you have to look at where you can trim and remove the combative or the toxic elements of what you're acquiring and remove that at the beginning in order to be successful in the long term. So that's my take. I don't know. What do you think, Bruno?
I think there's already rumors of him stepping down, from CEO or as the CEO. And I think that's, it's unconfirmed right now, but I think that's honestly what we'll see. I think he'll just step down. And I agree. I think that this was probably a part of the deal. And it was the first thing that people kind of thought about after the shock wore off a little bit. The first thing was like, well, hey, what about this guy? Like, you gonna get rid of him? And you're right. If there's not changes made initially regarding the management, then how do we expect anything to change? And I think that Xbox wants to be on everyone's good graces. I think we've seen that from Xbox these past couple of years. We talk a lot about the console wars and PlayStation's better or Xbox is better or whatever, when we all know that Nintendo's the best, right? I mean,
right. They're secretly winning. Yes.
They're secretly winning, No, but honestly, the Xbox has been trying to, congratulate PlayStation on everything that they've done. Nintendo as well. Phil Spencer has been doing the same thing. They're really trying to change this narrative on Xbox versus PlayStation. And I think that old, adage that we had in the 90s of like, suck it, Nintendo, PlayStation's better. Like, that's going by the wayside. And I think we're all realizing that it's best to just game in general. As much as I hate on PlayStation, I still want to play the games that they have and the exclusives that they have. That's not going to change, and it's not going to change gamers' opinions on what they want to play either. So I think that this acquisition is something that it's really going to draw a line in the sand for a lot of PlayStation owners. This is going to be a moment where they're going to probably jump ship or look at other alternatives like PC gaming or Xbox, grabbing an Xbox console if that's something that they prefer. Because, as much as you want to say PC gaming is the master race, it still isn't as affordable as a console, even with the jacked up prices of scalpers right now, which, by the way, they're coming down. If you're trying to get yourself a PlayStation, I think you can get one for $650 now. So
the price of a PlayStation is going down, and the price of Sony's stock is going down, and it was a bloodbath today. We'll get into that in the last portion. Now, I do want to point out a great take here from Mr. Grove Games. So he said he'll be there to sign the paperwork, meaning Bobby Kotick, and then bye Bobby. We can hope. Yeah, like you were saying, Bruno, there are conflicting reports that are coming out right now. I know the Wall Street Journal reporting that essentially once the deal has been penned, that he'll be out, but other people are saying not so much. I'm sure we'll get a clearer picture, but they're probably going to play that close to the vest. That's nothing new in the corporate world. There's going to be a pre-negotiated exit, and he's going to do just fine. Now, there is... Go ahead, Brad.
Yeah, I was going to say, they vetted that. They had to have assessed that internally before this was even made public about this deal going through, right? Yeah. I mean, they look at that. They already start to fish out higher levels of management, hierarchies and organizational charts to really see how that merger will go and who's going to stay and who's going to go, right? And Bobby and the higher management have 68.7 billion reasons why walking away is not going to be that difficult.
It's been said already that one of the reasons why they sought this buyout in the first place was because of all the controversy that had come to light with this lawsuit from the state of California. So really, I think that they're looking at it from a business perspective of it's a chance to clean the slate in the grandest way possible, right, of this massive buyout and say, okay, well, now Activision has to report to Microsoft, so there's more accountability. I actually think it works. It's a very expensive way to do it. But of course, if you're on the Activision side, you're making out like a bandito. So now one other aspect of this that I think we need to address before we move on, and that's going to be Blizzard, because it's not just the issues with Activision. Before all of those stories started popping up, I mean, Blizzard has been absolutely through the ringer in the last, I'd say, 6 months, right? They have had a terrible time of things with the terrible release of the Warcraft 3 Reforged thing they did, where they basically took all the existing copies of Warcraft 3 and said, you can't play that anymore. You have to play this new version of the game, and the new version sucks. Diablo 4 being stuck in development hell. Of course, the infamous "don't you have phones" Diablo mobile game moment.
My favorite moment of gaming, Nick.
Yeah, and Overwatch 2 that has been little more at this point in time than just their way of saying, oh, we messed up. Yeah, here's Overwatch 2. Yep. Yeah, have a trailer, even though we don't have any gameplay. And so, besides StarCraft 2, there really hasn't been a whole lot. They're still kind of doubled down into the World of Warcraft space, but we haven't seen a whole lot out of Blizzard, especially on the console side. And so I think there's going to be an uphill battle that they have to face, where they're going to have to really take a look at the Blizzard side of Activision Blizzard and say, what are you guys doing? I think that's been very beneficial for ZeniMax, or Bethesda in this case, with them having someone to kind of crack the whip and be like, can you make some games, please? Like, StarCraft, can that happen? Can we not have another Fallout 76 launch? Just anything, really. That I think it's going to be great to have that, but that is one other aspect, I think, that has been kind of not talked about as much in all of this, is what's going to happen with the Blizzard side. And I will point out, Overwatch, at least the original Overwatch, has that cross-platform compatibility. And now with them taking the reins of MLG, here's my hot take, my long-distance call, because we've talked for a long time on the podcast about Overwatch League, and it's slowly becoming irrelevant. I think this acquisition is going to lead to MLG picking up and acquiring Overwatch League, and they're going to parlay that into Overwatch 2's release and kind of consolidate everything, because I just don't see Overwatch League surviving as it is in the next 2 to 3 years. You heard it here first.
Well, that's a hot take, especially coming from a huge Philadelphia Fusion fan. Got a whole bar to change the channel and rally behind my man up in Philadelphia, right? Were you in Philly?
No, we were at a local bar.
Oh, okay,
we were just
bad.
Here
I am trying to inflate the story, and
yeah, I wish
I messed up the details. So that's okay. You were in a local bar, and man, we'll just pick
close enough.
Yeah, but I agree. I think that, first of all, and we'll have a conversation regarding this later, but esports in general has really had its ups and downs. And I think that there is a huge place for centralized esports. I don't know if that's going to be MLG, but it looks the way things are going, that might be the de facto league moving forward. It was before. There were a lot of things that fell under the MLG banner, and then the individual studios started saying, hey, we'll put on, we don't need you. We'll do it ourselves, right? And now we're seeing a shift in that. So I think it's something that as far as Activision Blizzard goes with Overwatch 2, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some of these games become exclusives for Xbox and PC. I honestly wouldn't. Like we said before earlier in the show, if you're spending that much money and you're not planning on, hoarding it to yourself a little bit, the results of what you have bought and purchased, then I don't know why you purchased it in the first place. Where was your return on investment in that respect? And it's not going to hurt them to say, it's released on PC as well, and you can get it on Xbox. Sorry, PlayStation owners, you're not going to be able to do that. But for a game that has yet to be released, it's a really great buy. You know what I mean? Like, politics aside, this is a huge move, because it's like, look at all these unreleased games that we can have under our banner now. Like that, you know what I mean? Like, let's say 80% of the work is done, 90% of the work is done. you've just acquired something that is super, super fresh to, to be completed. And now you're going to give them more assets to complete that, right? Like, just like the Codemasters acquisition, when EA took over Codemasters last year, they gave them a toolbox of things to use that they could, improve the game with. And I think that that's what we're going to see with a lot of these releases. And I wouldn't be surprised if they became exclusives.
Well, I agree with you a lot, Bruno, on your last point there. When you talk about Blizzard's recent perception amongst its fans, it's probably the lowest it's been since its inception. We could make that argument, right? And so I think it's a really poignant time that they're being bought out because, like you said, Bruno, if they're having issues with some of their storied franchises on these next wave of development and releases of these next versions, whether it's Overwatch 2 or, the Diablo 4, they're both in these turbulent development processes. Well, Microsoft just set itself up for success to say, well, look, we're going to acquire them and we're going to be the savior. We're going to get them back on track. We're going to help get these things launched and bring these storied franchises, these titles back to you and to play them in the way that they were meant to be played with these next generation of releases, along with, to bide their time, they could then say, well, we're going to throw like a World of Warcraft or something on the Game Pass right away to get all the people who are on Xbox who have the Game Pass who've maybe never played it before, buy some time by giving them access to that, to give them that time to finish these other titles. And now all of a sudden, now you're in a win-win situation. I think Microsoft has a really big opportunity here to revive and be the savior for Blizzard here and get their storied titles back online.
Well, speaking of Overwatch, I think it's time to push the payload to our sponsor, and that is going to be PierceUnlimited.com. And I'm going to tell you something, guys. We talk a lot about the amazing Ow! There you go. Sting it. That is poison. What's not poison is their podcast production packages, and that is going to be unintentional alliteration, but it's going to be minimal effort and maximum reach. If you are in the podcast space or maybe know somebody that's thinking about starting a podcast, Pierce Unlimited has you covered with their amazing podcast production packages. They're going to cover everything from, we're talking about the basic setup, the marketing assets, logo production, thumbnail templates, audio, coaching, you name it. Pierce Unlimited has you covered. Stop on by. Again, that's PierceUnlimited.com and get your free quote today. Why the heck wouldn't you, right? That's it. Pew, pew, pew. You've been waiting. I'm surprised it took you that long to play that one. At least you got the emotional damage out of the way.
Yeah, well, that'll come back.
Emotional damage.
Yeah, for this next segment, right? Our final segment on Sony. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Let me show you some emotional damage right now, boys, and that's going to be the final segment, talking about kind of the what should Sony and Nintendo, or really the whole gaming industry, there are other players out there. What should their response be to this? And first of all, to preface it, we talked about Sony's stock. I want to bring up what I Googled today, and it's a bloodbath, especially when you're talking about a publicly traded company. This is not a crypto chart. This is Sony. They did at one point they were down. Yeah, those are serious womps this time, because we saw at one point it's about a 9% crash when the news came out this morning. As of right now, trading at about an after hours down about 7% in just 24 hours. But then you flip the script, right, and go over to Activision Blizzard, and holy cow, on the 5-day charts, look at that. As soon as the bell opened there at 9:30, it soared from $65 up to $86. That is, I'm telling you, that's the kind of thing you see in cryptocurrency. Instead, We're seeing that with just these incredible trades. Microsoft mostly trading flat, but I think the Activision Blizzard side of things tells the tale of a company that had really been embroiled, right, in controversy, and had been kind of, up and down the charts. You can see at one point back in mid-2021, they were trading at about $90 before a lot of this controversy started to hit. You can see in November when things really started to get sour, and now they're right back up to right around that, beyond that point where they were kind of treading water there in Q2, Q3 of 2021. And so, I mean, Activision Blizzard, they're the winners in this scenario. There's no denying that, especially considering all of just the huge amount of conversation and controversy and ongoing lawsuits that they're no doubt needing to still settle. But the question becomes, Sony and Nintendo, and I think obviously Sony is the bigger talking point right now. On Reddit right now, literally every subreddit is talking about it because they knew it was going to be a conversation point. You know, the PlayStation sub that normally only wants to talk about PlayStation news had a dedicated thread that everyone was talking about it. And I got to tell you, it was the first time in a long time that I went in there and I really saw everybody kind of being objectively honest of like, yeah, long term this is bad. Some takes that it's bad for the gaming industry, but most takes that it's bad for Sony. So my question for you guys is this, and our listeners as well, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this. What should Sony's response to this be, right? We know they're going to be coming out with what they're calling Project Spartacus, their answer to Game Pass. At this point, it almost has to be too little too late. Brad's cracking up right now. I can't wait to get to that one. So I guess I'll start with you, Brad. If you're Sony right now, you know, you're the PR guy, what is the move going to be to really respond to this promptly?
Good question. I was
Puppies.
just cracking. Yeah.
Just puppies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Get 'em.
can we just take a minute and just laugh at the name Project Spartacus? Like, it just sounds more and more ridiculous as we talk about it each time. So putting that aside, I don't know. I mean, they have to step out of their norm here, right? Their formula, their strategy has been to double down on their exclusives and really say that they're building an exclusive community of players and games. And you're seeing now Microsoft take a completely different approach. We want gaming for everyone and every platform, accessible everywhere, right? Well, one of those has a lot of potential and the other one doesn't. So Sony has to do a lot of identity checking here. It's a internal reflection and go, okay, are we going to double down, triple down on who we are, and then really have to ramp up those exclusive IPs and really try to establish ourselves as a premium exclusive brand, which will alienate some people, or they're going to have to adopt and adjust and try to incorporate a little bit to keep themselves, their identity at least true to themselves, but a little bit of what Microsoft is doing. I don't know what else. I don't know what else they could do, to be honest. I mean, or all you got is GTA and Spider-Man. That's all you got.
It's the options are dwindling, right? And my take on this, kind of tying into the implications as well as Sony, is, you know, they've said for so long, and staunch supporters and people that stay strictly within the PlayStation ecosystem have always said that it's about the exclusives, right? And that's fine. I don't think anybody's denying that that's the major part of their business strategy. But in a way, Microsoft's moves here are kind of forcing them to double down and triple down on that policy there, because they're saying, oh, okay, your exclusives are all you need. Well, you shouldn't mind if we buy out ZeniMax.
Yeah.
You shouldn't mind if we buy out Activision Blizzard. Oh, you know, it was a cash purchase, guys. We can keep going. You know, and for them to continue to kind of pigeonhole them, where at this point it almost has to elicit a response, right? I don't see any realistic way that they can just continue to maintain that mindset. And I think one of the problems is you see these companies that are largely, you know, based in Japan. They don't move very quickly when it comes to news cycles or just responding to the market in general. Nintendo is notorious for this, right? They do their thing. They march to the beat of their own drum. When everybody was out there, touting their next-gen consoles and VR and that kind of thing, they're out there saying, "Oh, what about our cardboard pianos that you can make?" Like they are always going to be in their own little world.
Yep.
And I think Epic Capture Production sums it up best that, you know, acquisition plus Game Pass plus exclusives equals game over for everyone else, especially when Microsoft's strategy right now is let anybody that wants to stream Game Pass games, stream Game Pass games. You know, newsflash, that streaming stick is on its way. It's going to be dirt cheap, and anybody with a controller and a HDMI port is going to be streaming AAA Game Pass titles for, you know, that $1 to start and then, you know, $15 a month. You really can't beat it. And, you know, that problem is going to get worse and worse for them. So
it's
I
going to
guess
be built right into the TV, Nick. I'm calling it.
Yeah.
Calling it. It's just going to be built right into the TV. We've already got, you know, smart games. I think Sony will obviously follow suit and do something similar in that respect, to have something that where you can play, proprietary PlayStation only games on a Sony TV. You know, they have a TV as well, and there's already been talks about gaming TVs that are going to be coming out that are supposed to be, higher in frame rate and all these. It's supposed to be essentially a monitor, but in TV version. So the ecosystem, and I keep mentioning this, is set up for Xbox to succeed, especially with the cloud gaming. That is something I know that that is something that Nick has been a huge proponent of with Stadia. And I got news for you. That is a game changer, right? That is a huge game changer for anybody that wants to try these random games, to be able to go on and instantly try it without having to download it. Being able to stream it and test it out really quickly to see if it is something you want to actually download. And I can't help but think back when was the president of Sony or the CEO, one of them, basically came out and said, I don't understand how Microsoft plans to make any money off of the Game Pass. Doesn't seem fiscally, it doesn't make fiscal sense in our book, right? Like, it doesn't make sense. It's not something that could make money. And sure, I think that's true with Sony's nickel and dime mentality. No, there is no way for them to make money in Sony's mind, because they would need to charge for every little iteration of PlayStation games, from PlayStation to PlayStation 2 to PlayStation 3. You know what I mean? Like, they're willing to give us some, but not all of the cake. And that's a problem for gamers, especially those looking for those old titles. And we've talked about it before regarding digital assets and only being able to play a certain game on a certain console. Well, there you go. Here's what opens the door. If PlayStation wants to get back actual people onto the console, if they want to get someone like me who has decided, no, I'm not going to need PlayStation 5, it's just something that's going to sit there, they will need to have a Game Pass equivalent that has every back catalog of PlayStation games from PlayStation 1 to current PlayStation 5 games. I shouldn't have to pay an additional fee for any new exclusives that come to the PlayStation, sphere, right? Uncharted should be included. Don't make me pay $60 extra for that. Okay, PlayStation? Like, that's all we need. And if they could do that, which they won't, we know they won't, it's not going to happen. Okay, then they would get back the gamers, but they're not going to do it.
Well, and Nick, I'm going to just jump in here. I know I want to get your take. Just think about that, though, right? That's the minimum they need to do to at least be competitive, right? The challenge you're going to see here is Xbox is either going to make all of those titles from Activision Blizzard exclusive, or they're going to be temporarily exclusive, and then PlayStation players got to pay another $60 to buy those titles. There's going to be you're going to see the dwindling sales for all of these games on the PlayStation side, and all of these people are going to be convinced or heavily tempted to go get an Xbox and get the Game Pass. And to your point about, Sony executives saying that a Game Pass model would never work. I'm pretty sure we just said that they have 25 million subscribers and they're making 300 million plus, north of 300 million a month. So, I mean, that's constant revenue. That's a constant stream of revenue versus you're seeing the ebbs and flows of revenue based off of your IP releases, right? Where you're paying $60 a pop for a game. So I can tell you a consistent cash flow is going to win out every day over the ebbs and flows of those game releases, because then you're putting the gun to the head of all your developers to say, let's go, we need another game, we need some more cash flow, we need another game, churn it out, where Game Pass gives people a chance to go back to those original titles, and it buys them time because they've got such a library and variety of content that there isn't that rush. Developers can spend time making quality games. It fosters a culture of development, of variety, and I think if PlayStation needs their own version just to stay competitive, but we know that that's not in their core identity. So I don't know, Nick. I don't know what's going to happen.
Before you answer, I got to double down on this, Nick. Okay.
Okay, go for it.
we've talked about this before. Stand back. Here comes another one. Here comes the doozy, Mr. Grove Games is coming at you, bro. Okay. The idea of replayability is also an issue, right? With a model of exclusive games that strictly are a single player experience, it's really hard to continue to make money, month after month, like you were suggesting, Brad, if you don't have something like this subscription base. And, think about how many people are actually playing Spider-Man now versus when it came out. Sure, it boasted a lot of numbers in the first week, but once everybody was done playing it and beat it, there's no reason to return to it. Maybe if you're bored, but honestly, the replay value games come from the games that you have to funnel money to in, month after month battle pass style games. And if we've just acquired one of the big ones, Activision owns Call of Duty with Warzone, and you start putting exclusive things on there, I mean, you're gonna see people switch.
and I just want to preface this for our listeners. Bruno and I are very biased Xbox supporters, right? We own Xbox Series X's. If you couldn't tell. So I say that in a way of maybe Nick being a little bit more neutral compared to us subjectively. Is there anything that you can put your head around that would help Sony, or the formula you would give Sony to respond here?
No,
puppies.
I think, well, there is puppies. Yeah, and we'll get to that in a little bit, but I think that might be a winning strategy, Bruno. Has been for us, but I want to say, after all, and Bruno, you said it yourself, I'm not going to take credit for this, but I thought about it, but you put it best, which was, after all of these years of Call of Duty and their play it first on PlayStation, the turnabout of having it, and it's going to happen. Let's not beat around the bush. A Call of Duty game day one on Xbox Game Pass.
Yep,
and
happen.
They're going to put out a commercial. Yep. They're going to do it that says play it first on Xbox Game Pass. There's going to be that 1 week, 2 week, maybe 1 month exclusivity period. And all of these PlayStation owners, I'm not trying to dunk on you guys. I want competition. I really do. No one wants that one player that just washes everybody out, right? Competition is always a good thing in almost any space you can think of. But for them to be able to do that, and meanwhile, as a PlayStation owner, not only do I have to wait a month for the new Call of Duty game or those exclusive maps, but I have to pay full price for it when I finally do get the chance. You know what I'm going to do while I'm waiting? I'm going to go get the Xbox Game Pass app and just stream the darn thing. Like, for $15 or $2, $1 with the trial period. They're going to do it. It's going to be a long time coming. And so that's why I think it's just going to be so tough for them to really recover from this. That you're right, they can say what they want, but they need those ongoing third-party franchises with that cross-platform compatibility, your Call of Duties, your Overwatches, your Fortnites, to come in and be a staple of their franchise. You look at platforms like Stadia, that the ongoing issue is, the hardware is great, the concept is great, the ecosystem makes sense, but the games just aren't there yet. Call of Duty isn't there, Fortnite's not there, Rocket League's not there, the list goes on and on. It really hurts them in the long term, and so you need that. Exclusives can only get you so far. And I think it's really going to hurt them. But and there's Epic Capture Productions once again saying backwards compatibility, getting their fan base back on track to keep them in. That's all they got. We know that the rumors are saying that Project Spartacus, or their answer to Game Pass, should include some kind of
Spartacus.
Yeah, Bruno's already gotten that shot in. It's there. It's such an interesting landscape, and my goodness, guys, I knew we only needed one story today. We've already gone way over. But yeah, Bruno, you mentioned puppies, and I got to tell you, that's the place that you want to be, because Quit the Build has puppies. I want to point something out here. Our our hardcore supporters, they should know this already. There's a hidden page on our website, quitthebuild.com/puppies.
What?
That's right. It was a little Easter egg we hit. A couple people found it, but if you were listening very closely to one episode, you would have stumbled on this page. this is the PR response for everything. I think we have Doobie, right? We got your dog Doobie, Bruno.
Yep, that's Doobie. That's
Look at this
Doobie
little
right
fluff
there.
ball.
Yep, he feels that little ball. It's a breathe right ball, so he can like that while he's huffing around and trying to play.
Can we
He
clip
lives
that
to
for
play.
the soundboard next time, please? Can we clip that?
Man.
Oh,
great.
there's Doobie.
That's
What a
Doobie.
great! I tell you, if
man.
if you're listening to this, then obviously you got to head on over to quitthebuild.com/puppies, and you're going to be greeted with my little dog Doobie. He's there. And what else do we have on the on the website, Nick?
Oh, you
what
have all
else
of it.
do we got there?
All of it mastered that soundboard, man. I'm telling you. So of course you got to go to our blog because we have one of your recent articles about how much you've kind of an inventory of how much money you've spent on video games in 2021. The money sneaks up, but with Game Pass, that's one way you can definitely save a couple bucks. And other great articles too, of course. Brad recently talking about the 7 Fortnite skins that nobody uses. You might have one in your inventory. And even some throwbacks to some recent articles we had from Terry, Justin, Joel. We've really got the whole QTB crew. That's one of the best things about the blog is you're really getting great content from across all of our content creators. And of course, if you go to our network page, you can see all of our amazing podcasts. Of course, we have Gotta Watch. We have our 1 Hour, One Decision podcast from our partners, Tom and Chris. The Double DQ Wrestling podcast. The list goes on and on. Get on Spotify. Get you some Beat It. The new self-titled album is fantastic. So much you can get into. Air horns all around. It's all waiting for you at quitthebuild.com.
And Nick, Bruno, you know what really makes all of that go? Our community. Our fans.
Yeah,
Our
you're
Patreon
right.
subscribers, everyone that subscribes and participates in the community on our webpage. We do this because we love games, but because we love all of you too. And so we always want you guys to participate where you can. Send us an email, reach out to us. We want you to join our community. If you got any ideas for fun blog articles or anything that you want us to talk about, let us know. Shout us out on our socials. Where are we at, Bruno?
Talk to us.
Oh man, we're on TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and we have an Instagram, and I don't know if I mentioned that, and we've got Discord. Terry's on the Discord. We're throwing down memes on there, and I gotta tell you, I love a good meme, and there's quite a few from today's news. My favorite one being Phil Spencer with the Infinity Gauntlet, just smiling away. That's such a great one. But man, we are really excited to bring you guys some new content in 2022. We're working on it behind the scenes. We have an internal meeting here coming up at the end of January where we're going to be talking about what we're going to be doing in 2022, and hopefully we'll be able to share some of that news with you guys soon. Do you guys have anything to say to the masses out there, the millions of people that are listening right now?
I'm so sorry. We try to keep it under an hour, but we had stuff to talk about. It's been a long day for us, just nonstop coverage. We had. If there's one episode that we're going to break that boundary, it's today.
Hey man, when it's been slim pickings at the gaming dinner table lately. So today, when the prime rib of gaming news hit the table, we went back for seconds, and
We're
I'm
eating
okay
good.
with that.
Put away the A1 steak sauce. We're not going to need it today.
That's all I got.
Get us out of here, Bruno.
Oh, well, until next time, let me get something going here. I got to tell you, for Nick and Brad, I am Bruno.
For Bruno and Brad, I'm Nick.
And for Bruno and Nick, I'm Brad.
Peace out. What it do?
Nice.
Love it.
Okay, that fell over. Wow, that was intense. The headphones almost came off. That was something. Wow,
Did
guys.
it.
I tell
Episode
ya.
86.
On the
Wow.
books. In the books. On
In the
record.
books. Cook
Yep.
the books.
Don't cook them. I don't know how you cook books, but oh boy.
I don't either.
Doesn't sound like a safe practice.
No, that's how they.
Man.
That's how
Take
they
it
get
easy,
you.
Epicapture. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, thanks so much. Thanks for everyone checking out the VOD afterwards. It really does help us. And yeah, there's so much great stuff happening, and we will hopefully be able to share some news with you soon. But man, the stuff I'm seeing behind the scenes has got me excited. So stay tuned, and yeah, I guess we'll see you all on the flippity flip.
On a flap and a flap.
Peace out.
What it do?